Hello, everybody. Welcome to this Monday musings, this mass or collective ascension update. We are going to be talking about something really quite pertinent and quite, well, on a few people's minds as more and more people start to awaken. And the whole reason why we started these Monday videos was to help us see the path of the seed of Christ within us, right? Within our spine, the Christ light is within us, wanting to rise up to bring us to enlightenment, to ascension. And in order to allow that seed within us to rise and to be nourished and to be fed, some call this ascension. We have to be able to embody it. We have to be able to really face our shadows, and collectively as well as individually, and to be aware of what is transpiring in a way that we can offer it healing, love, compassion, and grace in order to fully heal, not only for ourselves, but for the collective too. For whatever we pass through our form, as within, so without. So whatever we experience, whatever we integrate, whatever shadows we bring back home to the heart, that will also happen around us as well. We lead the way vibrationally. So today I'm going to be talking about something which I was asked about in a anonymous or a private message, which is going to remain anonymous really. But it's something I know there are a few of us wondering. So the topics today, we're going to touch gently upon what some call the mark of the beast. It's a controversial video, perhaps this one. So I encourage everyone to watch this with an open heart and to be a witness and an observer of this message, just to see what rises. Because anytime we listen, hear, see something and we have a strong response, that's good. It means that there is a part of us triggered. That means that our higher self has a different truth to the one embodied. So if that happens in any of these videos, that's good. But we're going to be touching upon the mark of the beast. What even is that and where did it come from? And we're going to be talking about if you have, in the past few years or ever in your life, made the choice to have something enter your system. We're not going to use any words that may get picked up here, but if you've received anything in your body, which now you may be doubting, and now you may be worrying about. Perhaps you didn't know, perhaps you thought it was a good idea, perhaps you just felt pressured into it and didn't know there was another way to move through this past 3 years, 2 or 3 years, without taking anything in the body. And now maybe you're worrying about the effects that might be having in your physical presence. Maybe you're watching this always knowing that you were never going to have anything put into your body, but maybe you still carry the polarized view rather than the neutral view. And this is important because regardless as to whether we had anything put into our bodies or whether we were strongly against it, when you're on one side, either side of that spectrum of polarity, there is a charge there and there is a fear creating both realities. The trick to integrating the shadows that are arising, because this is the vibration, and I know you all know what I'm talking about when I say this and I do this and I point to my body like this. Vibrationally, whether we chose to have something put into our body or whether we were fully against it, there's the in the middle as well, which is a wonderful place to be. And I'll explain why in a moment, vibrationally that is, and I'll explain why in a moment. But when we feel so strongly about something that it brings up a great fire energy, we can get to a point where we're actually vibrating from the place of fear rather than love without realizing it. Because this is how subtle vibration is. This is how subtle fear is. This is how subtle it is. And whenever it comes to putting anything into the body, because there is a perceived threat of mortality, what happens is we start to feed a part of ourselves that believes that we are mortal, that believes that we are limited, endangered, stuck, able to be controlled. The real truth of the matter is that we are eternal beings, because all of who you are is non-physical anyway. All of who we are not the physical body. It's really interesting. I was speaking to, this might sound interesting in itself, but I was speaking to some ants. Yes, the little bugs, ants, when I was in France last week. And I was just watching them operate as one. I was watching them and listening to them as they were offering me a message. And the message was about collective embodiment, about oneness. Because the ants do not operate individually. We might see the little bug running through the path outside or on the plants, or even you might see one in your home and you're like, oh, there's an ant in my home. But it's interesting because the way that they operate, they are such a collective energy that their non-physical energy in their own right, their non-physical energy is commanding each of the physical dense light bodies, the physical forms. So when an ant perhaps is stood upon and the energy leaves the physical form, it goes straight into being reborn into a different life form. There is no veil of amnesia. It just carries on, it wakes up and it moves towards the collective focus. This is where we're moving to. Is right now we keep being born with this veil of amnesia, and where we forget who we are, we forget our truth, we forget our true immortality, really. We forget it, we have all these limitations, we build all these layers of ego and fear. And we call them other things so we don't actually see them as fear. We call them other things so that we can kind of justify their existence. But the ants were telling me a very important message. And it was the recognition that when we get to a point of ascension, we won't have that veil of amnesia anymore. So we'll realize so through and through that the body like leaves off a tree, will fall to the ground one day, but then that life force energy comes back into another being without the forgetting, with the full remembrance, not necessarily of the past lives, because that's not the most important. The most important is the remembrance that we are source energy, non-physical energy, living love. There is nothing else other than that. No illusion. And so this is important to share, I feel, because when we talk about anything that's happened in the past 2 or 3 years, what has come under threat is our perception of mortality versus immortality, our perception of our true being. We give away our power to others who tell us, and we identify with others who tell us that we are limited beings. And so we take a medication, or we take a thing, to try and prolong our life, because we're afraid that we're going to leave the physical form. We're going to leave everyone and everything that we know. But that just isn't really the case. Now, the body is a miraculous thing. The body is a miraculous thing. It is propagating continuously and regrowing itself continuously. Everything in our body heals. The cells, they propagate. They're continuously making new cells. And they do it off the reflection of the old cells that are there. Now, when we have extra things in our system, this could be medication, this could simply be food, depends on what we're eating. The vibration of such takes away our life force energy so that we're digesting, we're processing whatever it is, that organs get to work. Our life force energy, our innate life force energy then goes to digesting, making the food rot so that we can exit it out of our system. Or we can look at it as whatever, that could be an alcohol, that could be a thing going in here. The body is always replenishing itself. Your hair is always growing, your nails are always growing, you get a new liver every few years, a new skin every 30 days, like everything is new upon you. The bones, if you break them, the bones will heal. Teeth can do that too. Teeth can regrow and teeth can heal because they are exposed bone, and we know bone heals, right? So it's belief that gets in the way, false belief. So now for me, when I was younger, I had quite a few jabs when I was younger. And it's really interesting because there is such a thorough belief in the world that you can't reverse from the damage that is done if you have one of those. And that's just not true. There are many practices out there that actually reverse the irreversible, the perceived irreversible. Because this is the thing, once again, the cells are wanting to heal naturally anyway. They will do that if we leave them unencumbered, if we rest when the body is asking us to rest. And so it's interesting. I remember in 2019, I was going through a very long process of removing any cellular damage that was inclusive of allergies. And it's important to say these things because people aren't always aware that there are practices such as, for example, NATE. I had about a year of NATE. NATE is N-A-E-T. It's an advanced kinesiology, which reprograms the body. It tells the body you're no longer needing to respond in fear to this item. So whatever it is, and I do this because you go down the spine, there's pressure points that you activate whilst holding the frequency. The thing you can find a practitioner near you by Googling NATE. But this is important to say because I went through a few appointments with my NATE lady, where damage from jabs were being rectified on a cellular level. So the false DNA that may have still been there, any heavy metals, any yeasts, any proteins that aren't natural to my body and to my form, they were being removed, and my body was having the assistance of this practice, helping my body remove them. And it's fascinating because that's including all these things that apparently we can't remove out of our body, but that's just not true. There are so many advanced practices, and they're advanced for where we are at consciously right now, but they're not actually as advanced as we will go. We will get to a point where it'll be instant. It's interesting because there's also, body code. If anyone has heard of body code or emotion code, that can also reprogram on a cellular level. Once again, NATE is very for your physical body, NATE, physical and emotional, and reprograms on that level. But body code also goes into the DNA, right, on a non-physical level. Any cellular damage that's ever been done can be reversed. Everything that is perceived irreversible, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what name you give it or what name any other industry gives it, everything is reversible. Because your body is naturally healing itself. We only age, our cells only deplete because we're allowing life force energy to deplete from them. We are believing that this is so. Everything is reversible. So for those wandering around with a lot of fear about what they may have in their body, the whole purpose of this fear, because this is equal on the opposite side, if you didn't put those things into your body, but you still have fear or have prejudice against, and it might be very subconscious, very under the conscious level, prejudice against someone who did take it, have a judgment upon them for doing it. That's still the same vibration, whether you had something put in your body or not. That vibration is the same. It's something asking to come home because it's the vibration of forgetting who you are. It's the vibration of allowing someone else to take power over you, over your cells, because you don't trust your body. You're not listening to your body. And that's actually what it does on a vibrational level. That's actually the real thing here to heal. It's not about whatever has gone into your body at any point in the past couple of years and in all past lifetime. It's about listening to your body, hearing it, trusting it to do its job. The body naturally knows exactly what to do in every experience. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to command it with our conscious mind. So the body naturally will be purging itself of any toxins. That's inclusive of thought and emotion. That's not just physical things, because everything physical is just atoms, just atoms that we've collected together through our thought. A crystal is atoms, you know? Money is atoms, neutrons, protons, electrons, subatomic particles. On its very basis, everything is non-physical. And it's just our magnetic point within us that brings something into creation, right? So to reverse things, first you have to learn to not be afraid, to not be afraid of the things that are inside your body, to not be afraid of your body itself. It will be here as long as it's meant to be here, and then you'll take another body if you wish to. That's not something you ever will be on a conscious level for, really. And what's really beautiful as well is that, you know, there's a large collective thought about things written in very popular religious books. But let's just observe and witness what we could say about that. Because every book that has ever been written has been written, right? It's been transcribed. It's been translated. It's been edited. For example, the Bible right now, the English version is probably the King James version, which was highly adapted and highly modified and censored, right? To change some words. Which means that unless you're actually going to the very initial Aramaic version of those texts, and recognizing that there are in other cultures the same texts just written in different ways, to really understand that they're showing you the mystery school teachings embodied, rather than the translated and adapted and altered and modified version that has been bastardized by human hands multiple times. You know, whenever we hear phrases, like we could look at Adam and Eve actually, even just for a moment. The belief is that Eve was formed from a rib of Adam. But that's just not the case. That's not actually what that book said in the Aramaic text. Because the word rib in Aramaic is a different word to the one that was used to describe Eve. You can look this up. I can't remember off the top of my head how to pronounce or say the words, but the word rib is not used to describe in Aramaic how Eve was created. The word that has been used is side, like another side, another half of Adam. So let's think religion really has only really come into being in the way that it is in the past 400 years, 300 years, when the King James Version was written. And all these mistranslations anchored in when we got the printing press, right? When we started printing books. So you see how actually history isn't even that old. These beliefs aren't really that old. We're thinking a lot of these beliefs are, millennia, and actually a lot of it is formed because things started to be printed and we started to read them and believe them, but they're only 300 years old, some of them. So when we look at things such as the mark of the beast, every generation, there is a belief that something coming in is the mark of the beast. Some think it was the jabs from the last couple of years. Before that, it was QR codes. Before that, it was chips. Before that, it was barcodes in the 70s and the, was it 40s? Numbers, right? Numbers that go along with the name. But when you actually break down what it is, once again, this is simply a very, it's the mystery school teachings being translated and hidden and veiled, so that those are the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and the heart to know. The heart to know, not the mind to know, the heart to know. Can see through the text and see what it actually means. Know thyself. Who are you? You are not the person, you are not the body, you are not the belief in the mind. You are all that is, you are living love, do not forget it. Everything comes from a creation point that you are connected to. So everything is reversible. Everything you can change and create in an instant. It's interesting because as the phrase, the mark of the beast, came in and really started to anchor and put fear in the way, you know, let's look at what was happening in the world, right? Let's look at what was happening. Let's look at how, you know, our identity, our name, you know, we only had a surname for the past 400 years. We've not always had surnames. And it's our surname now that is associated with social security numbers, bank accounts, you know, the straw man, you know, things like that. We've forgotten that we are beings. And this isn't to get into the whole, because there is a lot of, once again, there's a lot of fear and anger and angst over the whole straw man thing as well. But it's going, the message here is to go past that, to go through that, to really understand, to really know with your heart, to really get that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anyone has said or has printed in books or any theories that are moving around, because they're theories, they're not being embodied, they're not being felt in the body. All these fears, these worries, and these creations of our collective are only present because we've disembodied it out of our heart, we've moved it up to our mind and disembodied, cut it off. We've cut it off, we've cut off the life force energy anchoring through the heart. We don't know with a K, we don't know with the G, we're knowing with a K instead, right? Knowing with a G, the gnosis, this is when gnosis is formed. So for those that are worried because they've made choices that they feel are irreversible, please don't worry, that everything is reversible. And there are people that are very able and willing to support. Look for a NAET practitioner. NAET. Google it, find a practitioner near you. Find someone who does body code and emotion code, you know? Within yourself even, find the fear in your body, feel it, let your body feel the emotion as it arises. There's a lot of emotion right now with the eclipses, it's powerful. Let the emotions arise. If you feel like bursting to tears, do it. Because that's what Scorpio is going to bring out. Scorpio is that phoenix and you can burn through everything that is ready to be burnt through. And that can look like a lot of tears. Let yourself cry, let your body do what it needs to do because it knows best. Get out of the mind about it. Feel, cry, breathe. Breathe, 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 breathe deeper and deeper and deeper. Your breath is the ultimate energy as well. The breath can do everything. Learn the pranayamas. Learn different ways to breathe. Go back to the roots, back to who you are. You are living love. Don't forget it. Don't worry about any mark of any beast. That is the ego really being embodied, the fears, the false beliefs, the illusions. We know this is a big topic and I know that we can talk about this for a long time, so we are going to stop there really, and that can be another video if it needs to be. But just know there really is nothing to be afraid of in this world. Everything will always balance itself out anyway, because the very nature of ego will burn itself out. It has to come to a fiery death to dissolve into the light, and it's time and there is momentum behind it. So it's inevitable in some respects, and your higher self is guiding you in others. So the team of light has got you. So thank you so much for being on this video. I hope it's helped, and if you find some of the topics today interesting and helpful, please feel welcome to share this video with others. I love reading your comments, so thank you so much for writing them, and I will see most of you on the 16th when I have the wonderful Starseed Origins workshop with Jackie White. We'll be traversing through the stars and finding which planets, which constellations are helping you right now. And then I'll see you again on the 30th of May with Tim Wilde. As we take a trip through Helios, the great central sun, we meet the giant ones, the founders. We work with the Shekinah, Metatron, to receive the attunements from the 7 suns that are assisting our ascension right now. That will be incredibly powerful and very activating for your DNA, helping you deal with any solar flares, helping you deal with whatever is going to arise for the solstice. You are living love. I love you. Thank you. I'll see you soon.